Hey folks, Chuck Holton here. Thanks for watching the Hot Zone. I'm in Kiev, Ukraine. If you've been watching the Hot Zone, you probably knew that I would probably end up here sooner or later with all the things that have been going on in the news. This is kind of the center of the city. This is St. Sophia's over here, this beautiful church. On the other side of this square down there is St. Michael's. Absolutely beautiful. I remember the last time I was here in 2014 was during the Maidan Square massacre and the Orange Revolution. And this event that we're seeing, all this potential invasion by Russia, is actually just more of the same. It's a continuation of what happened in 2014. And let me just explain kind of in shorthand what that means. So Vladimir Putin and Russia don't like the idea of their immediate neighbors moving toward the west. So what caused Russia to move into Crimea back in 2014 was the fact that Ukraine was actually leaning more towards the west and thinking about joining NATO and things like that. There were a lot of people here in Ukraine that wanted Ukraine to join the European Union. But Russia was not going to stand for that. And as a matter of fact, the president of Ukraine at the time was a kind of a puppet of Russia. And so despite the overwhelming will of the people, I guess, they wanted to move toward the west, and he moved them closer to Russia instead. And that's what fomented the Orange Revolution. That's why they had the Maidan Square massacre just a couple blocks from where I'm standing. When that happened, the Maidan Square protests and everything eventually led to the government of Ukraine falling and them replacing it with a new government. And that led Vladimir Putin to push troops into Crimea. Crimea is a southern part of Ukraine where there are lots of people who identify probably more as Russians than they do Ukrainians. These two countries are very closely linked. It's kind of like the United States and Canada in a way. They both speak almost the same language. Of course, they were both part of the Soviet Union, and Russia actually traces its roots to right here where I'm standing. Russia began in Ukraine, and so they see Ukraine as sort of their girlfriend, let's put it that way. And they broke up, and Vladimir Putin didn't like that. And so he's kind of like the jealous ex-boyfriend that doesn't want his ex-girlfriend going out with anybody else. So when Ukraine is cozying up to the west, Vladimir Putin sees that as a threat. And the more the United States government sort of, tries to push Ukraine to become an ally, to join NATO, to do anything like that, the more problems we're going to have with Russia. Now, that doesn't mean that Russia has the right to tell Ukraine what to do. Ukraine's a sovereign country now. If you ask any of these people here, they would tell you that. The vast majority of Ukrainians do not want to get any closer to Russia. They don't want to go back to being a vassal state of the Soviet Union or anything like that. But every time the West gets too cozy with Ukraine, then Vladimir Putin is going to act like that crazy ex-boyfriend and go, "No, I still love you, Jessica." And he's going to try to bully Ukraine into moving the other direction. And he's actually got a little bit of a point. I mean, if you think about the fact that what if China came over and started cozying up to Canada and trying to get Canada to, be on China's military team, so to speak? The United States might have a little bit of a security problem with that. And Russia has already seen 14 of its previous Soviet states join NATO. So you look at Slovenia, Slovakia, Hungary, Czech Republic, all these countries that are now part of NATO that used to be part of the Soviet Union. This is, sort of the prize of all of the Soviet satellite states to Russia, at least in the mind of Vladimir Putin. And he's spoken very clearly about the fact that You know, how can you expect us not to do anything if you're pushing Ukraine to, you know, join this military club that we don't like? I mean, Ukraine has every right to do it, and we have every right to encourage them, but it's definitely going to get some pushback from Russia. And I think Russia is trying right now to puff out his chest and sort of bow up on the West a little bit and say, look, if you keep this up, it's going to get bad. And he might be right. The question is, how crazy is Vladimir Putin? Does he really want to go there? Does he really want to go that far? So I'm going to be here for a couple of weeks reporting on this, and I guess that remains to be seen. So thanks for watching. Stay tuned. I'm Chuck Holton. We'll see you.